What's up everyone, Mr. NoobTube Gamer. Today we're playing Battlefield Vietnam in 2022. As promised in my Battlefield 1942 video, I'm going to run through all the old Battlefield games, which is something that I did last year, except I actually never covered Battlefield Vietnam before. This is my very first time playing the game. And that's because I actually planned on playing it last year, but it turned out to be a lot more complicated to not only get the game back online, but to get the game in the first place, compared to Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2 and even 2142. I had a lot of problems trying to get Vietnam going, so keep that in mind. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass to not only get access to the game, but to actually get it back on. Because you have to find all these files online, and it's just, yeah, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. I somehow found it, but I'm not going to link it because I don't want to get in trouble and get a copyright strike and all that. I'm not really about that shit. But yeah, I just want to start by saying it's not the easiest, it's not the most accessible Battlefield game that you could play. It's definitely one of the hardest when it comes to getting access to the game and also finding online players. This is by far the least played Battlefield game online in 2022, and it's not even close. Seriously, the most players I've ever been able to find in one server at any given time was 4 people in a 64-player server. So the other 60 players were all bots. And you guys know how I feel about playing an online game and only having bots. I am not a fan of that. I'd rather just not play the game at all than deal with that horseshit. So I put all the effort into getting the game set up, finding a way to get the game back online because the servers were officially shut down a very long time ago. I don't even know how long. I think it might have been around 2014 when GameSpy shut down. There was a whole bunch of old games that were taken offline back then. I think it was around that time, but I could be wrong. You know, but the strange thing is that all the other Battlefield games that were released during that era, whether we're talking about Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 2142, they all have a pretty strong player base. You have multiple 64-player servers in Battlefield 2. You have 2 fairly active servers in 2142, and 1942 is also doing pretty good, as I mentioned in my 1942 video I did a few days ago. But Vietnam is like the odd one out. You can't find any populated servers ever. And I've been trying. I've been logging in every single weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, trying to come in on peak hours, like around 2 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes I try to come in at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I've been trying every single time, and I can't find anybody online. So the game's basically dead. So for that reason alone, yeah, I can't say the game is worth playing in 2022 if you can't really play with anybody. I mean, you can see I'm just messing around with bots in this gameplay because I have no other choice. And I don't really have fun doing that. I like playing against real humans, even though, you know, when you're playing old games like that and you're going against someone, chances are they've been playing since the very beginning for like 20 years, so they're going to kick your ass. But I'd still rather experience that than deal with bots that don't really provide much of a challenge. And especially in these old Battlefield games, the AI is very stupid. And I can't really tell you why Battlefield Vietnam doesn't have anybody playing, even though the other Battlefield games that were released during that time do. I can only guess that Vietnam just isn't remembered by as much people as the other games that I mentioned before that still have a lot of players. Like Battlefield 1942 is the very first Battlefield, so it's iconic in that way. Battlefield 2, people still talk about that game, and 2142 is the only good futuristic game in the Battlefield series. But when we're talking about Battlefield Vietnam, I'll bet that a lot of you that clicked on this video thought that the gameplay was going to be Bad Company 2 Vietnam, which was the Vietnam DLC for Battlefield Bad Company 2. I think that's the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind when it comes to Battlefield and Vietnam. And guess what? There are a lot more people playing the Vietnam expansion of Bad Company 2 than Battlefield Vietnam, which is an actual full-release game and not a DLC. Even though it feels like if you go from the gameplay and the overall feel of the game, it does feel a lot like 1942. Like it could have been a Vietnam expansion of 1942, and maybe that's how it started and it just became a full-fledged game. I'm not exactly familiar with the development behind this game, but at least having played 1942 and then playing Vietnam, the two games feel very similar. Obviously there are some differences, like the map design is definitely tweaked a lot to better accommodate the Vietnam War setting compared to World War II in 1942. So, they did change the game a little bit, and obviously the Vietnam War weapons that didn't exist in World War II. So there's plenty of content to make it feel like its own game, but at its core, the two definitely feel very, very similar to each other. If you ever played the two games before, you might know what I'm talking about. Battlefield Vietnam was definitely a really good Battlefield game, but that's the thing, it was, no longer is, unfortunately. And that's just due to the game not having any real player base in 2022. It's the most dead Battlefield game in 2022, and that includes 2042 and all the Battlefield games. Hardline, think of any Battlefield game that was like controversial and disliked. They all still have more players than Vietnam, for whatever reason. So I can't recommend this game in 2022. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Battlefield Vietnam. Did you play it back in the day when it first came out during its prime? And if you did, what did you think about the game? And how would you rank it among all the Battlefields? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.